Good morning, guys. Welcome to another episode of Xa Talk Show. Good, I'm alive. So today we're gonna talk about geometric inversion. Let's see. Let's see what we're gonna talk about today. I'm kind of late. I'm 8 minutes late. Okay, so today we're gonna talk about optional function parameters in computer language documentation. This is one idiocy of the hacker type of programmers. I mean the programmer industry in general. So let's start talking about that. Then we wait for people to come online. Hey, good morning, Isaac. How are you? So we're gonna talk about this the optional functional parameter in computer languages. I don't have a set of topic today yet, so we're gonna just see. Hey, good morning, Web Dog. Haven't seen you uh, yeah, for a while. So this in computer documentation, you see these documentation syntax notation for functions optional parameters. For example, this one is from Python 3 documentation. Same thing with Python 2. Okay, so you have a function bisect left. Okay, then you have several arguments. Now, some are required, some are optional, right? So the first argument is a list, comma, that is required. Then it says item. Okay, so that's a second argument, which is also required. Then it puts a square bracket. Then inside the square bracket, you have a comma. Then something. So what that means is that you know that means this argument, the third argument, and so on, is optional. And the way the notation, the commonly used in programming industry, in PHP, in lots of places, is using the square bracket for optional parameters. Now that's one of the most idiotic thing. So this is part of my complaint. This is part of my complaint about programmers and the programming industry and the hacker types and all those basically those people and all those subjects they talk about, the programmer industry talk about, that I think are just utterly stupid. Now, why is this stupid? Look at, so for example, these optional parameters. So that example is from Python. You can see here, and then we have another example. Here is an example from PHP documentation. So you have this preg grep. Okay, now that's a function. The first argument is a string. The second argument is a array. Then the third argument is flags, and that's optional. So the way they indicate the third argument is that they put a square bracket, and inside it you start with a comma. You know, so why is this idiotic? Because this is confusing. Because if you uh, you know because the square bracket is a valid syntax in PHP and also in Python, basically in all these languages. So this is confusing because you put a square bracket, you don't know. I mean, is it does that mean, for example, in Python, when you put a square bracket after a variable name, that means usually means you are extracting an index of a string or of an array, or of a list or something like that. You put a square bracket after some variable name, then inside the square bracket may be a number like 2. That means you want to get the second index item of that array or string. So so they use this square bracket to indicate optional parameters, and then inside you have a comma. This is very, very extremely stupid. Okay, And we also have another example. This example is from JavaScript uh, documentation on the Mozilla website, the Firefox website. So I showed several examples. I want to indicate. So this is very common. It's very common among programming communities. Doesn't almost in every language you have this kind of notation to indicate optional parameters. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna look at the comment. Am I still alive? Yes. Okay. So so the optional parameters. Yeah. The square bracket. That's very idiotic. Just this notation to indicate optional parameters has been going on since at least I would say at least 1990s. 1990s is basically when I started to do programming. So I don't know if this happens earlier, but it's very common, and I have never ever seen a complaint about this notation. You know, I have never seen programmers complain about things all the time. They bitch about programming languages, about uh, problem of design, elegance of a language or something they like this language, they don't like that language, they like Lisp, or they they may have opinion, like tons of opinions on everything. However, I have never seen one single criticism of this this very extremely obvious and apparent idiocy of this notation to indicate optional uh, parameters in a function. So this is one example where I find these industry programmers, especially those elite hackers, like they are on Hacker News, like their posts, their blogs are retweeted, reposted by everyone. Everyone want to they want to tell you how you should formatting styles of programming languages, about all sort of things, and patterns, and how functional programming or object oriented programming, but I've never seen one criticism, bitching about this. So to me, these programmers are just completely idiotic. They okay. I mean, what I want to say something. I want to bring out this issue. So the question is, what is going on? I mean, so first of all, do you agree or not agree? This is confusing. Do you see this is a very stupid uh, problem? And why? So if first of all, do you agree? We ask all the programmers. You post this to your friends. You ask them, do you find this kind of stupid? It's kind of not correct. Then you ask them, okay, suppose, I mean, first of all, whether it's stupid and at what degree. This is like, you know, a score of 9 stupidity or 10 stupidity, or not really, like it's actually good. Then you say you put a score of 1. 5 is, unsure, or it's okay, something like. So you assign it a score, how utterly stupid it is. Now, if your friends, if most of them, majority of them, agree that this is a stupid uh, notation, okay, then the next question to ask is, why is it that in the past 20, 30 years no programmers ever talked about this? You ask them that. I mean, first of all, we have to make sure, is it true that there are no programmers ever mentioned this problem? You do like, we can put it scientifically, like you survey, let's say, 10,000 programmers, ask them if they ever heard of someone who complained about this issue. Okay, so we get the statistics. So I would say, from my experience, no, you will not, very, like, almost nobody ever mentioned this problem. Okay, so that's another thing. Then the next question we want to ask is, why is it that no programmers ever talked about this problem? Now, is it because programmers in general do not complain? Obviously not. They complain about all kind of things. Like they tell you what you should be doing, what is the correct way. They have, like, we see it all the time, language flame war and so on, right? So then, okay, so they do express their opinions. Then why is it nobody mentioned this? So this issue, this is one of the issue. I have lots of issues. So why am I talking about this? Because what I am doing now is I want to express. Okay, I want to uh, tell you. Well, it's particular to me. Okay, I want to tell you these frustrations. I mean, because a lot of programmers call me a troll. Whenever I talk about programming stuff, many they think of me as a troll. But this is one example. Like, when I say, Unix philosophy are they are voodoos. Okay, so of course a lot of people disagree, and you guys, probably a lot of you guys do not agree. And so I have this bunch of opinions. Also, the wrapping of a line, like programmers are accustomed, like people are told that you should have a hard wrap of a line every 80 characters or 70 characters or so. So you have all so so you have all these issues. Okay, issues on my plate. I have all these issues, and today this optional parameter notation of a function is one of the issue I want to bring out to address. I want to, so this is one of my complaint, that I feel somehow the industrial programmers are just like, like a bunch of people on a truck. Like, they never actually think. They are not thinkers. They do not think. Just like outside of programming, like religion followers, like the mob, like average normal people in other aspects of society. That's what I think. Okay, yeah, perhaps that is why. But anyway, so I'm talking about this particular issue about optional parameters in functional parameters notation as one of the example. And I like you guys to think about it. I mean, of you guys who are watching, or those people who are watching. So why is this happening? So to me, I mean, like yesterday we talked about JavaScript string problems, which is another extreme idiocy. There are a lot like that. So anyway, so that is the context. I just want to show an example, okay, of the issue of, this is a, concrete example. It's not like I'm bullshitting. I mean, everything I say about here, you can verify, you can see, there's a screenshot, and you can ask people, ask your friend, or ask yourself, what do you think of this situation? Is it good or bad? Why you never see programmers complain? Okay, so at this point, if you agree up to this point, then the question is, why do programmers? What do you think? What's happening to the programmers in the programming industry? I mean, why are programmers never see this as one of the problem? You want to ask that. As a philosopher, you spend, like today, you spend 1 hour to think about this. I mean, in a serious way. That's what philosophy is about. You think about things, you keep thinking about it. So you think about this, let's say, for example, for half an hour today. Why programmers do not, it seems like they don't care, or is it because they didn't see the problem, or is it because, like, they are blind, or, I mean, what is going on? Or is it because this is really not an issue? This is actually a good notation. Maybe that is why. So you think about it, you think about it for half an hour today. Tomorrow you think about it for another half hour. You keep thinking about it every day. Serious. This is what philosophy and philosophers do. Okay, you want to seriously think about this problem for for a month, for a year, and you want to write a report. Okay, like you have to come into a conclusion. like 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 this is, suppose this is the issue, uh about the size of the universe, or about some important thing about the nature of science, or that's what philosophers do. This is just the example. Typically when people think of philosophy, they think of, oh, Greeks, or something something, or about the universe or meaning of life. That's actually not the essence of philosophy. Okay, those are the main subjects that happens to be, as a consequence, in somehow, I mean, it happens to be the main subjects of philosophy, but that is not the essence of philosophy. Philosophy is is the, there are many ways to define many things. You can ask what is philosophy. Then in books about economy, there economists will talk about what is economy. Each different book will have different definitions about, and there are also lots of books, tons of books about math, and mathematicians will often talk about, have a chapter or preface like what is math or what is geometry. And they are, because there are so many ways to see this, to give you a sense what it is about. And they so this is one of the example, what philosophy is doing. I'm trying to uh, show you. Okay, so philosophy, so you think about this problem, and in a serious way. Okay, this concrete example about this programming documentation notation, and you have to come into a conclusion. I mean, that is important too. I mean, philosophy is not about, oh, you just think about things like you play video games, and by tomorrow you forgot all about it. No, you have to, this is some serious issue. You have to come up a conclusion. I mean, like how deep you go depends on what knowledge you have. I mean, you can go into like anthropology. I mean, so is this situation is because of certain neurons in your brain. Uh, 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 you know uh, those who study brain scientists. Is that because of that, or is it because certain psychology? Because being a programmer, you have certain psychology, the way you perceive things, therefore you don't see these notation problems. Or is it because, that it's like the conclusion is totally free. Okay, I mean, your way of thinking is free. You want to think about it whatever you are, your style, your background, your the way you grew up, whatever comes to you. So if you are serious about things, okay, about everyday things, may it be politics, and you think about this every day for an hour. You have to make a, as if you are writing, you have to eventually write a report. Like, for example, a government, when there's some disaster, or politicians, or some accidents, uh, you know heavy accidents, or some political intrigue, some, then the government says, created some organization that investigate, create an investigation, with, 10,000, $100,000, put in to investigate what just exactly what's going on, who is at fault, or something like that. So on this problem, as a philosopher, okay, you want to think and you want to make a report, because, as if it's a critical, like if you did it wrong, or if your report is unfair, or if your report is, shoddy, or if you didn't actually too lazy, didn't actually think about it, and just random write it up, you'll be blamed, you'll have problems. Okay, or people will suffer. Okay, so think of this as a really serious problem. You inquire, inquire into it. Uh, so that is about this situation. And the other thing you want to think about, I mean, when you think about things, okay, this is one example, and this applies to many examples. This is kind of what I tend to do. Okay, I mean, not that it's necessarily a good thing to do, because first of all, if you are going to be a philosopher, you are not going to have money to live. Okay, you can think about this problem for 10 years, and you are not. It's not something that bring you money. You want something to bring you money. You go to you mop the floor toilet at McDonald's. That gives you immediate money. Or you go work for Google to write uh, write programming and debug. That give you money. But anyway, but still philosophy. Once you think about this particular issue, this example about notations, you I mean, depend on how deep you go. You can spend 1 hour every day. If you keep doing, you can spend 2 hours and for 10 years. It gets deeper and deeper because this notation no issue. Let me give you an example. How is it possible it becomes deeper? This is a notation issue. Then you start to research into notations. There's a subject of history of mathematical notations. Then there's also the subject. I mean the history of math notations. You can study for a full year. Okay. Then you study so then maybe you get into history of math notations. Then you start to wonder, okay, maybe only mathematicians do certain things this way. Maybe musicians, maybe because musicians and mathematicians are different, so musicians may not maybe fall into this trap or something. So you start to research on musical notations and history of music notations, and you start to research writing systems, because this is written. This is not, the notation for functional parameters is not verbal. It's not a speech. It's a written. So maybe you start go to into linguistics, writing systems of the world, or what is possible. Then you maybe go into maybe you have computer programming background, so you start to focus on the syntax of programming languages. So, and maybe your thinking is that the programmer, whatever programming language they are familiar with, they tend to use that programming language's syntax to document uh, the features of the programming language. Maybe that's what you think. Okay, so you start to research into the syntax of programming languages, and that subject, as you know by itself, is very broad. You can spend several years into it full time. What are the possible syntaxes? Then so all these above, I'm giving you examples of what it means, philosophy. Okay, what does it mean? What does philosophers do? And so so the goal here is you want to write a thesis. So let's call it thesis. So it can be 10 pages, it can be 100 pages, depending on how much research go into this. Okay, you write a thesis, and the topic can becomes the direction of future uh, uh, notations for documentation. It can be so many ways, and it actually again depends on which aspect you are inclined to go to. Maybe you are broad, maybe you have an eye for very specific narrow perspective. You can go very deep into that. For example, this can you can it can become related to formal languages, which is a very deep topic in theoretical computer science. So anyway, you want to think about this, and you write a report. So okay, so what is my point about talking about this? So first of all, so I wanted to show you, um, yeah, okay. So the first issue is something personal. Okay, I want to show you some of the things I'm doing about programming languages, um, that it seems to me, the most programmers in the industry, they are not just they don't think about it for some reason. That's first issue. And the second thing is that I talked about what does philosophy mean. Okay, the kind what one perspective. There are so many perspectives. I'm giving you one perspective of what the essence of philosophy is about. Yeah, I guess that's it about that. And of course, obviously, this is interesting to programmers because if you're most of you are programmers, right? And you have to, documentation you have to read every day, and bad documentation is no good to you. You waste your time. Good documentation is good, so you want to know how to document and what documentation, which kind of notation is good. You know, so that's I suppose that's interesting. That's actually the most practical aspect of this subject. And okay, so about this, thing. So what are the? So there are two more things I want to talk about. So this notation is bad, in my opinion. What is a good notation to express, optional parameters? That's one thing. The other thing is, the other question is, why do programmers actually, uh, write it this way? I mean, why? So I have some opinions about that. First of all, so my opinion about why programmers actually write the optional parameters in this stupid notation is because this notation is the conventional notation from the conventional notation of parsers. Okay, because let me show you the parsers. Okay, let's go to yeah, I'm gonna answer the question real soon. So let me go into the Xali parsers. Um, uh, because I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you. So what I'm saying is that this notation for optional parameters with the square bracket, it came from the conventional notation for expressing grammar. Okay, programming language grammar. Okay, let me show you. Maybe I have a example here. Um, Syntax grammar Backus, yeah, Backus Naur Form, BNF. Um, that notation, the square bracket, the use of square bracket to indicate something that optional in a syntax came from the convention, the conventional notation of expressing grammar, and this notation is called Backus Naur Form, and BNF. BNF. Okay, that's an abbreviation. So, do I have an example? Yes, I do have an example. Let me show you. Okay, here I have an article here. This article is I studied about this in depth. I spent several a week or so study this. So this article is about what is the difference between BNF, EBNF, ABNF. Now, if you don't know, the BNF is a brief for Backus Naur Form. What it is basically it's a syntax to express programming language grammar, and most programmers don't know nothing about this unless you are someone who start to work on parsers or compilers. Now if you have done any study of compilers, maybe it's a homework at college, you'll know. Okay, so this BNF is a syntax to express programming language grammar. Now there are several variations. BNF, EBNF, ABNF. Okay, there are these three are the major variations. So anyway, in this syntax, in this grammar, the bracket notation. Let's see if we can see an example here. The square bracket is used to indicate optional sequence of symbols. Okay, so anyway, so this is why. Okay, so this is my reason. Actually, I think it's true. It's a fact. This is the reason that programmers, uh, it's adopted the convention of using square brackets to indicate optional parameters for functions optional parameters in their documentation. Okay, now remember, take notice that these two are different things. I mean, one thing is about the documentation of functions in a documentation. The notation for functions for function in a documentation. On the other hand, this BNF thing is a syntax for grammar specification. Okay, they are they are related subject, of course, but it's actually different. One is a documentation notation. So anyway, so that's about why I think programmers are doing it that way. Now the other question, I mean, so is it so given now that we know why programmers do it, why the reason that programmers are using this notation, is it good? No, still I don't think it's good because it's confusing. Because first of all, vast majority of programmers, like 99.99%, one in 10,000, only one in 10,000 possibly know or have experience about BNF. Okay, most are not. I mean, as a programmer, your daily job is programming Emacs Lisp or Lisp or front end, back end, whatever. Gaming, or you are not concerned about passing. It's not a actually typical daily programming problem. uh, so anyway, this notation is bad. Okay, so the other thing is, then what is a better notation, a better way when you document a function to indicate optional parameters? Now I have an opinion of that, and I show an example here. This is a good example. This example is from Wolfram research on the language Wolfram language, or also known as Mathematica. So you can see now this maybe this is too small. Let me magnify a little bit. So let me just show this. Okay. So here is a example of how you document of the notation to document a function's parameters, and optional parameters. So first, so here we have a table function. Table is a function. Oops. So table is a function in the Wolfram language. So you have, first of all, you have table takes two arguments. So you just, by the way, the square bracket in the Mathematica language is for function. It's like parenthesis in convention in Python or Java or JavaScript and so on. So a table takes two arguments, expression and n. Okay, it will generate a list. So actually, by the way, table is actually like a what's called a uh, list comprehension in Python or other languages or Haskell. But in Mathematica, it's actually a function. It comes in a function form. Okay. But anyway, table takes two arguments. The second argument can actually be a list. So you have this syntax. Then the list can actually have 3 items, uh, and actually can have 4 items as well. So you see, you begin to see, the optional arguments are basically each optional argument. You repeat the whole notation for the whole function, so it's clear. You can clearly see that table has these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 variations of parameters, and the last one, we can see table takes more than infinite number of arguments. But anyway, so this is a notation. I think it's way better because you can clearly see all the variations, and there's no confusion because when you back to the Python example, when you use the square bracket in here, there's a confusion because square bracket is actually a valid syntax in Python the language. So when you have a square bracket, maybe it means the taking the index of an array or string, or it can also mean uh, was it hash table, or was it uh, but anyway, you know what I mean. It means something in a programming language. So it's very confusing. But okay, so let's go back to Mathematica. Um, so anyway, so this is a good example. In my opinion, it's how you should document um, functions and functions optional parameters. Now, so I write a lot programming language tutorials, right? So this issue is also, so it's important to me because I write so many programming language tutorials, and often I need to indicate functions parameters specification. So whenever there's a optional parameter, I also basically I use the Wolfram languages notation to indicate uh, functional parameters. I have some examples here, but we can skip that. So okay, so that concludes about this topic about optional functional parameters in computer language docs. Okay, let me read the comments. So that was a rather focused discussion. So that was 40 minutes about that topic. So Break the Loop says, hi, question from yesterday's topic about Unicode in JavaScript. What is the ideal solution to you? Make Unicode 32 the expected standard? No. So the ideal solution is, the ideal solution is to introduce a pragma. Okay. So for example, let me open a new buffer, magnify, switch to XOR JavaScript mod, and so the ideal solution is to introduce something like this. Okay, use 2019. Then you do whatever. For example, console log 1+1. Okay, let's run it. I have to save it. xx.js. Okay, let's run it. So result is 2. So what does this mean? So this is a string. Okay, when you have a string and it just does nothing. So you put this string. I mean in Emacs, I mean in JavaScript, you already have these. Okay, so actually let's just use that. Oops. What is that? So you have this use strict. It's called I think it's called pragma. Let's just go to a website so people can understand what it is about. We don't want to go to use strict. So JavaScript has this use strict thing. I mean, it's created so that it's part of the language spec. So when you have these, basically the compiler will look at your code in will assume that it is following a new spec. So this is what I recommend. I think the ideal solution is to introduce a new, use 2019. So that will means, in 2019 we introduce we change all the behaviors of the string methods behavior. We change those uh, as a 2019 spec. So people, so when your source code, you can add, use 2019, then all the functions methods will have the behavior specified, in the year 2019. So it's kind of like the way to go into a new language. Meanwhile, it will be backward compatible because you just don't, you know you just write code normally without that use, 2019 string. Then you'll just, be the old behavior. So I think that's a elegant solution. I mentioned this yesterday, but the JavaScript standard, they decided that they are not going to introduce any new use strict kind of thing, because I think the reason is that they think it going to create more complexity, which I don't agree. But but what can you do? So so does so am I still alive? Let's see, 5 people watching. Okay, I'm still alive. So break the loop. That is the question. That is the what I think. So Norman says, I do agree the bracket notation for optional arguments is irritating and confusing. Yeah. So Norman says, in Erlang documentation, they show complete form of all possible ways of calling the function. Yeah. So that is similar to the way Mathematica is doing things. I really like the Mathematica language. That's the language. It happens to be the language. It happens to be my first language, and but in a Mathematica language, like, I mean, let's not even talk about. I mean, it's not just about language, because, for example, the way they document things, there's no jargon, and look at this notation issue. It's just good. It's just good. Why? Let me explain why is it good. Because Wolfram, the Wolfram, Stephen Wolfram, the guy. Okay, he created the language. He is a well. He professionally, well, he was a physicist. Okay, he's a he's a quantum physicist. He's a like he's got a degree, when he was like a teen, and he won MacArthur Genius Award. So literally, he's a certified genius. Then so he published physics papers when he was like a teen or 20s in professional physics journals. Then he abandoned academia. He went to create his own business. So he's really like a true genius, not just academic genius, but he's he run his company, and now that company is Wolfram Research, is very successful. And also, by the way, it's not a public company. It's not like a Google or Facebook, like IPO. It's not public traded. Why? Because he wanted that way. Because if you know anything about the corporations in USA, public companies means you basically, well, essentially means the public, or anyone who has money controls it, controls the direction, like how it will go, what direction it will become. That's what it means. So he doesn't want, he want the full control. Like he's kind of a weird guy. So I mean, So he wanted full control on every aspect of his creations. Mathematica, the language, the programming language, how it should move forward, and he's doing his stuff, research on physics he's very into cellular automata, a new, he said a book called A New Kind of Science. Actually, I read it like three times, cover to cover. A new kind of science. So he sent me the book. We kind of are acquainted. He's actually sent me an email last year. Uh, anyway, so Wolfram language. Let's see. So he got this book, and he wrote this book. Supposedly, it's like 20 years of his research. He's very much into this. It's basically the subject matter is a cellular automata. We should talk about that because that's an incredible, fascinating topic. Okay, cellular automata, and yeah, you can look up Wikipedia. By the way, you will have articles. And by the way, it also relates to automata and theoretical computer science and regular expression, and it's actually all related. Formal languages. Yeah, that's a big topic to go into. But anyway, so he's very into that guy is very much into this. So yeah, he control. He has a vision. Uh, and very successful. Uh, so yeah, yeah, back to the previous topic. So I was saying the reason Mathematica is such a it's rather, okay, let's say, one of the most coherent and actually elegant language is because you when you think about things, you want to think like a mathematician. That's okay. That does not actually capture the whole essence. But anyway, what I'm saying is that uh, when you think about things, you want to think in a mathematician's way, and by that I mean you want to eliminate. You want to eliminate anything that's irrelevant, meaning that you whatever you say or the result only captures only it represents the essence of things. In fact, that's one view of math. So what is mathematics? Mathematics is when, doesn't matter what thing, anything, any topic, politics or economy or person or how to make how to influence people, how to make friends, how to get a girlfriend, any topic. When you eliminate anything that's irrelevant, and when you do that successfully, that is mathematics. That's one way to view it. Okay, that is also why when you see math, real professional math, it's all abstract. Like you have symbols. It's like, what is this? Like, it's unlike physics or black hole. At least like black hole physics study. At least you can imagine, oh, it's a black hole, because the star, what's a star, it collapses, it becomes a whole hole, and it's black. But math, it's not something you can appreciate because it eliminates all the things you can perceive, but it leaves only the core, which is kind of the ideas of the relations and logic, how they relate, how things relate. That is what math is about, the real math. Okay, not calculus you study in school, but because, for example, in calculus you can still see, oh, speed, oh, the change of speed is that, or derivative is because you want to get the instantaneous speed. You still have the concept of moving and speed and so on. But once you take the real mathematician's version of calculus, which is called analysis. Okay, in USA, analysis. You don't have that anymore. But the subject is pretty much the same. It's calculus, but the way you talk about it is without, speed or movement or cars or, directions. It's nothing like that. It's all just kind of like symbols and ideas represented by symbols and how they relate. Uh, so that's so I guess what I'm explaining is the one of the aspects or perspective about math, the nature of mathematics. Okay, so back to the so what I'm saying is that it is because this way, because of the eliminate unnecessarily things, this way of uh, perceiving or viewing or creating languages. That is why I think Mathematica is very elegant and including the documentation. It just makes sense. But by the way, he's probably not the first guy who to created this notation for optional parameters. I'm pretty sure he's not the first one to do this. But for example, we also see it in Erlang, and I don't know if Erlang, the guy Armstrong, who created Erlang, who just died 2 days ago, a few days ago, he has seen the Mathematica documentation. Probably not. No, Erlang is actually before Mathematica. Okay, so what is the alternative notation? I just covered that. So are you guys still with me? So keep the comments going, okay? So what few more comments? Let's see. So Norman says, I think many and most programmers use IDE that allows function auto-completion. Arguments are filled in. They don't resort to documentation as much. Yeah, that's true, but no, but you still need to read documentation. But because how do you know what arguments are, what they mean? So WebDog says, I like the TypeScript. Probably some other languages too. Way. WebDog says, I like the TypeScript way of expressing optional parameters with question marks in the identifier. Yeah, that's yeah. I suppose that's. I think that with using a question mark is definitely better than using the square bracket. Uh, but overall, I still prefer the way of listing everything out. But by the way, the way of listing every out is actually not optimal because if you go back to think about the BNF notation, you see, if you go back to the BNF notation, you cannot. Well, you can actually, but listing out all the possible forms actually is impractical in the context of creating a syntax for grammar of a language. Okay, so yeah, but anyway, so by the way, using a question mark is also kind of common. It's also a conventional practice to indicate optional parameters. Uh, I think they put the question mark in front of the name, right? I thought. Uh, so small groups of single people like Wolfram can exert control over a language, maintain its conceptual integrity. Yeah. Listing every permutation of the argument could get exhaustive. Yeah. Well, it depends on what you mean exhaustive. There are ambiguities here because one meaning is that it gets tiresome. People cannot possibly list all permutations of optional arguments. That's one sense. People get tired of it, so it's not practical. The other sense is that exhaustive is like comprehensive. It's complete. So obviously, if you list every permutation, then it's actually complete. Um, so Norman says, if the language supports keyword arguments or takes a map argument, then you can have a table listing those instead of all permutations. Yeah, but that's true. I mean, but that would be a different thing, right? I mean, because then you are changing the function's arguments, so that's actually a different issue. Uh, you know, so I guess that's about, yeah, that's about the maybe that's about it today. That's the main topic I happened. I didn't know what topic to talk about today. Every time I start to do a talk show, like I was, I don't know what to talk about. Not because I don't have topics, but because I have so many. I mean, I do have so many topics, but it's like I have to decide. But usually, like I just randomly picked a topic, and that ends up uh, like almost an hour. Okay, so that's one topic about optional function. So Norman says, so stories about me working at Wolfram. I don't have much stories, but actually I can tell you some, yeah, some experiences. But actually, so let me see. So Xali, uh, programming experience. Okay, let's try to search that. Xali programming experience, because I have written an article about that. So I have an article that's my impression of Lisp from Mathematica. Okay. Then I have another article. Okay. Anyway. Whoops. Wait. Uh, wait. By the way, this page. By the way, John Bayes is a great quantum mechanics physicist, and he's also a great mathematician. I learned tremendous math from him in the past, in the Google Plus days. So I learned tremendous math from him in a span of 3 years. And Google Plus shut down, and he's now on Twitter. So if you are on Twitter, you can follow John Bayes. Okay, and he's also a category theorist. He's very much into category theory, and in fact he talked about it all the time, and he actually teaches it. He has been teaching it for maybe 10 over 10 years maybe. And I mean, he's not a programmer though. He's not a programmer, so he doesn't really have any much about anything about programming. But however, so if you are into category theory, follow him and check out his stuff. Okay, so I have an article here, my impressions of Lisp from Mathematica, because I programmed Mathematica for 10 years. Then in 1990s, then I start to learn Lisp around 1991 or 1998. Okay, so Mathematica is actually a Lisp. Okay, you could say that. Um, so so this article is written in 2008. Um, Actually, I think it's written much earlier than that. Um, but anyway, so you can see some of my histories about my impressions of Lisp. Basically, it sucks compared to Mathematica. It's like, uh, you know, yeah, it's true. Like back in 2008, I might, when I have for example, when I learned it, I might think, okay, I don't actually know Lisp that well, so maybe my impression of Lisp from my experience of Mathematica is maybe biased, and also back then I don't know that much about programming or computer science, as compared to now. For example, after all, it's after 20 years. So, so even though I have some opinions and some of them are strong opinions, but, I'm thinking maybe actually I could be, my impression is wrong because I don't really know many of the topics about programming languages or design or stuff. But now today, for example, today, my opinion back then is absolutely correct. Okay, like I do not change my opinion. In fact, it's 10 times more solid. Mathematica compared to all the Lisp, doesn't matter what Lisp, fuck Lisp, common Lisp, scheme Lisp, racket, they are in relation when you compare those Lisps to Mathematica, all those Lisps are shit. It's like 10 times worse. Okay, no, in every aspect, in syntax, in semantics, in how powerful it is, in expressibility, in how short you can express it, in how flexible the syntax can change, in every aspect, and in practicality they are much more inferior than Mathematica. Okay, this idea becomes stronger and stronger over the years as I learn more languages and understand more, different areas of programming and computation. But there's one issue about Mathematica because it's proprietary, so all of you open source fans, you can forget it immediately. Now you have a choice, okay? You have a choice. One is that stick with your open source fantasy, okay? Stick with your open source philosophy, stick with your open source mindset. You are not ever going to touch anything that's proprietary. So Mathematica is proprietary. You close your door on it. Like don't look at it. Like you don't care because it doesn't matter what it is. You don't want to hear it. Okay, that's one of the uh, choice you can make. The other choice is then you have to like, oh my God, Mathematica. Ksali says, Mathematica is this and that. Maybe, I should look at it. Maybe I should, even though it's proprietary, but, so you have a dilemma now. Uh, okay, so Mathematica. And so what I want to, yeah, I was going to show you an article where I talk about some experiences when I was at Wolfram, and you can find that article by uh, I don't remember what keyword to search, but I think I can find the article by going to uh, okay, here's the keyword to search. Xali Peter Novig. Peter Novig is one of the Lisp god. Okay, it's considered by programmers as a Lisp and AI god. He wrote a idiotic essay that is widely spread among the elite hacker schools. So I want to find my article. Xali Peter Novik. Okay, so let me try this. Xali learn programming in 10 years. Oh, Novig, VIG, right. Uh, There it is. The article is named "The Condition of Industrial Programmers: Learn Lisp in 10 Days." Okay. Now, I wrote this in 2006. Now, this essay is a reaction to the Peter Novig's article. It's a very popular article. Okay, it was hugely widely spread. It's called, the title of that article is "Teach Yourself Programming in 10 Years." It's written in 2001 by Peter Novig. Okay, the guy. So you can see, I have a link to his article, and this, and he has translated too many languages. Chinese, Bulgarian. This idiot. Well, he's not an idiot, but this concept in his essay is idiot. Okay, and it's widely embraced by the elite hackers idiot in the programming community, the Unix philosophy people, the Lisp people, the common Lisp phonetics, the hate and soul of Haskell people. They spread this every day. Learn Lisp. So what is this essay saying? Teach Yourself Programming in 10 Years by Peter Novig. What is he saying? Basically, he is saying that, how common is in an industry where you have books like learn something XYZ in 10 days, or in 1 hour, or in 1 month. Learn master C++ in a week. Master HTTP in 1 week. Those books are extremely popular. So his essay, is basically an attack on those. Learn something in 10 days. Because, so what he is saying is that, programming, you should really take your time to master it. So he's saying, in 10 years. That's kind of exaggeration, but he's saying you really should take your time to master a programming language. And he give his reasons. Okay, so, and programmers love this idea. So every idiotic elite hacker types spread this essay. So what is wrong with this essay? What is wrong with this concept? So in my opinion, okay, so I wrote a reaction piece. So this is my reaction. The condition of industrial programmers: learn Lisp in 10 days. So that's my title of my essay. So what I'm saying is that the Peter Novik guy, okay, his essay, I mean, as a guy, I think he's a good guy, and he's a great expert in common Lisp, and also he's a great expert in artificial intelligence of the classic era. Okay, but anyway, so what's wrong with his essay, with his idea of, how programmers should, take years to really master a language? My Okay, so I think it's stupid, because this kind of idea is basically unrealistic. I mean, it's a idealist notion of it is like ignore reality, and it does not address the heart of the problem. What is a problem? The phenomenon of, learn something in 1 day, learn something in 5 hours. Those books are very popular. In fact, everyone is doing that. You when you want to find a job, you want to, study a programming language, you want to get a book that teaches you, something for dummies. Learn something in 1 week. That's what you want. Everyone, for every one of you. You are not going to, oh, I need to do this. I need to take my time, and I, envision I'm going to learn it in 10 years. Nobody is doing that. You need the job like next month. You're gonna spend this month, study this subject and get a job, so you can feed yourself, you can be alive, you can, feed your family and whatever. So that's reality. Okay, so it's a fact of life. You have to, that's a reality. So, but his essay, this Peter Novik, his essay, he's like, okay, let's, yeah, ideally, he forgot the word ideally, so he's saying ideally we should, all take our time. There's no rush, the word, we should just relax and learn a language for 10 years. It's idiocy. You that's ignoring reality. Okay, that's not looking at reality. Like you close your eyes, you live in a cave, you pretend, you don't have to worry about job. You don't have to, like all the young people, they don't have, like they have 10 years sitting at their home and doing learning programming language, so this is idiotic concept. So I wrote, an essay to say my opinions, but in this essay, I also mentioned some of my experience at Wolfram Research. Yeah. So anyway, so what is my experience at Wolfram Research? Actually, I only worked there for half a year. Okay, in 1995, I was there. Originally, I was supposed to be there as a summer intern for a month, I think. Yeah, summer intern, for a month, 1995. Then I was going to UC Berkeley, after the intern. So I went there 1995, and I end up staying there for like half a year, and not coming back to California. I went to Wolfram Research is at Champaign, Illinois. Okay, Kabama Champaign. That's a city name, Illinois. It's a small college town. Okay, anyway, so in 1995, I went there as an intern in the beginning. Then I kind of just stayed for I kind of just stayed working for them for half a year. Eventually, I came back because eventually I decided I should go back to UC Berkeley, but I never went. That's kind of my life story. No decision, wandering around, no goal, and just do whatever I do. You know, it so happens to be kind of like my personality, my style. It's just aimless. Doing wandering stuff. So anyway, so I was there for an intern, but he we I so I talked to him. He liked me. Okay, and he wanted me to stay. And so what I do there, I basically, so by the way, so I was original intern, but anyway, so what I do there, I actually, there is no assigned task for me to do. Like you have to, you have a manager, you have to do this, by this week or by whatever. It's like you have to. There's actually nothing like that. Actually, it happens to be that I just I was there and just do my things. I was I was I was one of the guy. I'm so much into math and into programming. Like even today, I sit in front of a computer. I have to study parsers or whatever, philosophy about computer science or automata theory. I just have to. It's like I have to do this. So it's the same back then. So I'm very into, and back then I was like programming Mathematica, all day, every day. I read, this thick book, three times cover to cover, the Mathematica manual. Uh, so I was there. So so obviously you can see that they can see that you are going to do whatever you do, because that's you are, so anyway, so they didn't. I was there to do this. I'm just doing whatever I was doing, and I was doing this visual dictionary of special plane curves. Okay, that is the project. Basically, this is the result of my working there. You got several Mathematica packages. This entire website. I didn't create a website when I was there, but after I came back to California in 1996, 1997, I created this website, and this is one of the most popular website uh, back then, up to late 2000s, up to let's say 2007. It's the most popular one, the let's say top 100 most popular website, top 100 most popular website whose subject is mathematics. uh, yeah, especially earlier days, let's say around 2000, it would be top 10, something like that. So this website, you have animations. Basically, it's kind of a visual dictionary of special plane curves. Okay, so yeah, and it's got animations, it's got Mathematica packages, and it's got interactive GeoGebra. So that's what I did. Okay, so this is the project I did. Study math. Calculus. Plane curves. This Greek geometry. There's lots of things, and so that's what I was doing. So at Wolfram Research, I was just writing Mathematica code on these kind of visualization things. I wrote a lot of them. Yeah, so for half a year, that's why what I was doing at Wolfram Research. So I think that let me read a comment, and that would be it for today. Yeah. So let's see. Next video of Mathematica live coding. Actually, I haven't coded Mathematica for over 10 years, and in fact, I don't have it. I don't have it on my Mac. I really what I need to do is to get a job, because I'm like I don't have money to eat, and I probably there's one possibility I can go work for Wolfram Research. I don't know. So Norman says, also curious why you seem to dislike Nassim Taleb. Yeah, he can be abrasive, but yeah, I think he's a crackpot. I can say for sure, but from what I've seen so far, I think he's a crackpot. He has many of the symptoms or properties, or what you say, characteristics of crackpot, of the code leader. For example, one of the characteristics of code is jargons. You always have lots of jargons, and also the other thing is like seclusion, like cut you away from any outside thinking. Like uh, for example, he likes to ban people. Like I didn't make like he banned me. Okay, it's not even it's not like I even really attacked him. He just banned me on Twitter. So I mean, anyway, that's a topic we can go into detail, but probably not today. Today is kind of the end of it. And also, he kind of attract people. Like he forms a cult. Okay, his followers kind of it's the type that forms a cult. Now, actually, you can say the same about me, because my followers tend to be the mainstream, the main the mainstream people, and usually kind of niche. And but anyway, yeah, so we can maybe talk about. Yeah, actually, I don't have that much to talk about him, so that's probably it. The Nassim Taleb, and also so one of the things he do is jargons. He likes to create jargons. Okay, I mean, I have checked out his book. I mean, I have spent a few hours to look up what this guy is about. What has he done? He has written books. What are those books about? And the nature of the. I have looked. He likes to One of the things he likes is he likes to create jargons. Okay, like opaque jargons, which is one of the hallmark of the code creators. Those kind of people, like the Pearl people, Larry Wall. Okay, and other crackpots in programming community. So he liked to create jargons. For example, one of the jargon he created is this anti-fracture. Is that correct? Something like that. Anti-fracture. Okay. Uh, and uh, and then he like to ban people. He likes to then like he wants to create a thought to all his followers so that you forms a sense kind of us and them. Whoever are not smart, they are stupid. We want to cut off ties with them. So he likes to form this kind of a war between he and his followers and outside. So that's another characteristics of code. Okay, I mean, if you study code, which I have, because I'm obsessed, it's one of the topic I spent, I'm very interested in my whole life in the past 30 years. Scientology, religion, sects, different, group of them, how they form, what's their tactics, and related to marketing, brainwashing, propaganda, how they related, what they do, what's their formation, how they work. I'm very interested in this kind of topic. It's all related. So one of the things he does is like, yeah, jargon is one of them. Usually a cult or sect kind of, or even a gangster, they have their like a systematic way of talking about things. It's all jargons, like different from normal usage of the word. So he's into jargons. This Nassim guy, one of the jargon is anti-fragile. Like his followers will just start to say, "Oh, this is anti-fragile pattern." It's like the programming fuckheads, the programming community. You have patterns. Oh, this is a factory pattern, or they create a jargon that anyway, jargons. Okay, that's one of his thing I found. And so I noticed, and yesterday, a few days ago, I have a friend of followers, okay, who, when I was commenting on the pianist, Glenn Cood, okay, I made some comment. Glenn Cood is a very weird guy. It's well known. It's a fact that he's very weird, and he has some kind of personality psychology issue. It's a fact, okay. Then suddenly, this my friend, this my acquaintance, I would say, my followers, he's from Russia. By the way, is that green deck? I'm not sure. It's possible. But anyway, he all of a sudden he made a comment like, "You are wrong." Like you are wrong. Then, but I don't know I mean, what do you mean by I'm wrong? I mean, is that Glencoe is well known. He's well known for his weird, um, like he has to have a specific chair. It's kind of like a pianist, a piano player. Usually, you sit on a kind of a bench, a piano bench. But that guy, he must. It's a requirement. He sit on a kind of a normal wooden chair his dad made for him. It's not a piano chair. It's like just a wooden, a very strange. I have picture. Actually, you just search for Glenn Cood, on Wikipedia, and you will see it. So he's a very weird guy. Well known. Okay, it's a fact. But then suddenly, my acquaintance, acquaintance of mine, he says you are wrong. Then I don't know what's going on. So what do you mean I'm wrong? Like, do you have what is the reason? I mean, I have no idea what is going on, because I thought it's a common, well-known fact. This guy is weird. Then he started to say, it turns out, he says something like psychology, like almost like the entire branch of psychology is bullshit. So after we made several exchanges, because I was trying to find out what do you mean I'm wrong. I mean, it's like I'm shocked out of blue. He says I'm wrong, and this is from one of my followers. I usually I have some sense, who is following me, So yeah, I was surprised. What do you mean? I mean, he's a follow. He's a friend. suddenly he says, you are wrong. Yeah. So what do you mean? So after several exchanges, it seems like he's saying that he's got the sense that all psychology is the whole field of psychology is bullshit. So eventually it turns out that idea came from this Nassim guy, this this guy we were talking about, the anti-fragile guy. So he showed me, he linked to a Twitter post by this Nassim guy. Basically says the entire, psychology is idiotic. So another characteristics of this Nassim guy is like he like to make controversy. Okay, he like to make statements that are wild, and is like the whole like he says literally like paraphrase, like something like the whole entire psychology field is idiotic, is stupid. He made that statement. So that's another um, reason. That's another trait. I think I find this guy to be questionable, crackpot, because that's one of the technique to make yourself famous. When you make wild claims, and then you form kind of like you versus us versus them situation. Like he also made a statement. Apparently, I learned from my acquaintance that that something like don't follow idiotic people. Like the idea is that the assumption is that in the world that most of people are idiot. When you see those people, immediately make a war, like cut them out. Don't ever listen. It seems to suggest that I don't know where that came from, but apparently it's from that Nassim guy. So all these reasons. By the way, I think it's actually true. Most majority of people in a world, and majority of let's put it this way, majority of opinions you see online or in real life are stupid. That is actually true, because because nobody has the time to study everything. There are millions of subject matters, may it be social or sciences or philosophy or how to do things, or the way of life, how to think, what decisions to make, or literature, what books to read, what programming language to learn, like a billion, infinite number of questions about life. And nobody really can possibly be well versed in all these, this infinite number of things. So most of us, maybe we are a little bit smart, or maybe not. You don't have to be smart, but the fact is, doesn't matter how smart you are, you cannot know. You only know very tiny or almost insignificant amount of things, even about life. About, maybe you are the greatest mathematician, but when it comes to real life, what for example, how politics works, you don't know. Your idea how to run a business, or what should startup do, your idea may be the most stupid actually. So that's the situation. So most opinions, actually, it's actually true, most opinions, doesn't matter in online or real life, it's actually stupid. So when you hear other opinions, including mine, you want to think about, is this guy, his opinion in this subject, is this really good? That's a good question to ask. So that's what I think about that guy, the Nassim. That's why I think so I get, I haven't really spent days, or to research what that guy is, but I feel that he's a crackpot. Let's see. Okay, I think that's it. 90 minutes. Uh, okay, curious what you seem to dislike. Yeah, Nassim Taleb. Is that how you pronounce his name? Nassim Taleb. Uh, Yeah, and he also blocked me, very early on. Actually, I was because I have friends, suggesting I follow him, and so I did. And but I didn't immediately get any, I didn't find his wisdom or something, and one day I made a, kind of questionable, I mean, a question, his comment, I forgot. You can search Twitter, you can probably find it. I'm pretty sure you can find it, because I did not delete it, so then he just blocked me. It's like, so okay, that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. If you like my stuff, support me. I go, just go to any of my website. You can see, my Patreon, my Amazon gift, PayPal. Put your money there, or Bitcoin. Okay. So thank you guys for coming by. Until next time.